I'm Trish Toby with WARC reporting to you live from Westchester, New York, where there appears to be some sort of mutant menace on the loose.
Hey everybody, it's me, Matt Ockamp, your host. And with me is my friend, Pat Reber.
Hi, I'm Pat Reber, also host of Mutant Menace. Welcome.
We're a podcast where we talk about the X-Men, and that's pretty much all we do. How are you doing, Pat?
I can't keep this up, man. I am brimming with energy.
Oh, really? What's got you so energized today?
Just happy to see you, pal.
Aw, hey, me too. Raise a glass.
Cheers.
What's in your glass?
This is water. I just finished some iced coffee.
Yeah, it's not very exciting, I guess. I finished some decaf chai, and now I have some water, which is what the fans are clamoring to know about. What are these guys drinking?
What do they always say? I always hear sips and straws clinking on glasses during the recording.
Which, may I say, I love, but I wonder what these guys are drinking.
Yeah, we got to leave a little something to the imagination. I will let you in on a secret. I did have a paper bag full of empty aluminum cans next to my chair for a while.
I still don't understand why that happened. What caused you to have a paper bag of empty aluminum cans?
I drink a lot of plain seltzers, so
Okay.
I was downing them pretty quick. Creating a little recycling pile next to me in a paper bag. And what I've learned since is that's a bad practice for podcasting.
You are a bit of a, how do I say this without totally dragging you? Trash hoarder.
I'm not a trash. It's not trash.
A bunch of aluminum cans is trash.
It's recycling, Matt.
Do you remember there was a time that you were emptying, you were cleaning out your car, just taking the trash out of your car at a Wawa, and somebody came out and yelled at you because they thought you were bringing trash bags from home?
All right. This is embarrassing.
You've grown since then. You've grown much since then.
I've grown up. I got married. I wouldn't be able to sustain a relationship if I was filling every room with trash.
Now it's shrunk from entire rooms to one small bag by your feet, which is good. We're proud of you.
One small bag of recyclables at my feet.
Yeah. All right. Did you have an X-Men week at all?
Let's see. What can I compare to the X-Men? I did a lot of driving this weekend. Which the X-Men are always going to different locations.
Mm-hmm. Were you driving around in a Rolls Royce?
No.
Okay.
It's a Subaru. Do
they still make a Rolls Royce?
Yeah, they still make Rolls Royces. They are like $750,000.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they're status cars.
Who drives them?
Ringo Starr, famously at the time of these X-Men comics.
Not very working class Liverpudlian of him, but
well, I know Ringo, usually known for his subtlety, had
peace
had
and
his
love,
vices.
peace and love.
He did paint it too. It was like covered in psychedelic art,
which I bet Hank and Bobby want to do to their Rolls Royce.
I'll bet they would love it. I think it would be a fun twist too, because right now it's just a limousine basically.
I just this feeling that Hank and Bobby they're into the psychedelic thing. They just kind of don't want to admit it because their roommates are such squares, right?
Yes. Like,
Warren and Cyclops are such squares they'd be made fun of if they fell all the way into it. So they're just kind of like, oh yeah, we don't like this. We just go to this poetry coffee house every single week.
Whenever we go home, we go straight to the coffee shops of Greenwich Village in the late 60s.
But ironically, we think it's actually kind of lame. Do you want to go right now?
Matt, I got to ask you something.
Yeah, sure.
Here's a question that's been on my mind.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a handful of podcasts together now where I am ingesting as much content as possible of something that you are borderline obsessed with.
Okay, yeah.
If the tables were turned, we've done Pokemon.
Yeah.
We're doing X-Men.
Yes.
We did that podcast together where you made me listen to all those folk songs.
Man, you've never listened to that, have you? I cut out all your parts.
What?
Sorry.
Oh, all right. Well, I'm going to start listening to this one to make sure you're not cutting me out of it. So let's say the tables were turned, and you can't just say sports. If there is a topic, when we finish this up, 40, 50 years in the future, and I get to choose the topic that dominates my life that we ingest all the content from. What do you think that is?
Twitter trolling? No.
Oh, that's a recent obsession.
I mean, Simpsons, right?
The Simpsons? Ooh, what if we watched through late seasons of The Simpsons together?
It would be something. It would be something TV, right?
It would be on TV. My life since a child has revolved around the television schedule.
You are a big TV guy. I am not a TV guy at all.
Yeah.
I have to. There even stuff that I want to watch takes me months to actually get around to it. I did watch White Lotus.
Ooh.
Only I watched the last 2 episodes only a week after the finale. So that's pretty good of me.
You only watched the last 2 episodes?
No, I watched the whole thing. But what I'm saying is the last 2 episodes I finally watched just yesterday. Which at time of recording is like a week after the finale.
That is progress.
Yeah, right? And then I probably won't watch a TV show again for several months.
Have you been watching the new Daredevil?
No.
Ooh, you know what? That's it, Matt. It is the Netflix Marvel universe of television shows.
It really is. But if we did that, we would also have to watch all the tie-in shows that aren't on Netflix, like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yes, or Cloak and Dagger. Do you know they made a very short-lived, just as offensive Cloak and Dagger television series for Hulu?
Is it known for being very, very offensive?
No, it's not known.
Yeah, I mean, having read very many Cloak and Dagger comics, not that there are very many Cloak and Dagger comics, so basically I've read almost all of them.
Against your, or I guess not against your will, but under protest of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this is how I live my life. You know this. I'm in an adversarial relationship with my own media consumption, right? If I like something, half of me says, "Oh, I like this," and the other half says, "Oh, if you like it so fucking much, why don't you start at the very beginning, consume all of it, including the shit that's tangentially involved that you hate."
You're good at it.
I've played. Because I like adventure games, I've played like 6 Leisure Suit Larry games. What is wrong with me?
That's not a joke, which is what hurts. We can make this commitment right now. It is the the short-lived Marvel Netflix universe, because no one else has seen Iron Fist season 2, which is something I need to talk about.
It'd be hard to. What's a good name for that?
Canceled. So that's the problem with this universe is there's no actually unified theme.
Yeah, exactly. You can't say Netflix because it's not all on Netflix, and it would imply something different. I'm thinking like you could maybe say something to do with Defenders.
Yeah, defending the Defenders.
When I was thinking, all right, yeah, look out for Defending the Defenders in 2045.
Perfect. That, or it's going to be the 2024 Eagles Super Bowl. Right.
We'll do a bonus episode. Yeah, if we get any listeners to this podcast, we'll start a Patreon and we'll do bonus episodes where you force me to watch shit that.
Yeah. Oh man, this is a magic formula.
You'll have to. That incentivizes you to go out and find us listeners.
All we need is an audience.
An audience who wants to pay us. Pat, do you want to talk about with me today on this podcast issues 33 through 37 of the X-Men?
Yeah, the original run.
Yes.
Yeah, volume 1. Perfect. Let me start with issue 33, Into the Crimson Cosmos.
Ooh.
I'm going to read the credits here as written. Never has Stan Lee edited a more senses-shattering saga. Never have Roy Thomas and Werner Roth co-produced a more mind-staggering masterpiece. Never has John Tartaglione delineated a more earth-shaking epic. Never has Sam Rosen learned to spell Sidorak.
Now,
Matt,
do you agree with these?
I think no.
Yeah, of course not.
I heard you in our pre-show discussion pronounce it as Sidorak.
And to you it's Sidorak.
I just want to know your thoughts on it.
There's a Y there.
Yeah.
Can you think of another word that starts with CY that is pronounced si instead of psi?
Oh, cynical.
Cynical. Okay. I see you're cynical. I raise you cycle. Cyclops. Cyber. Cipher.
Oh, shit. I was just going to say that one, but you're right. All right. I was really just curious. It's your opinion. You're entitled to it. But let's get into it. The cover date here is June 1967. It hit the stands on April 11th, 1967. Following the moments after the events of the last issue, we find Juggernaut climbing some trees. This infuriates the U.S. Army, who launches a bazooka at him, but he is unharmed. We know from the last issue that Juggernaut has absorbed Professor X's telepathy.
You call it telepathy, huh?
His telepathy, leaving him comatose. We know from last issue that Juggernaut has absorbed Professor X's telepathy, leaving him comatose, and is on his way to steal an airplane to fly to Factor 3. Back at the mansion, Jean Grey picks up the mental wave amplifier to read the professor's unconscious mind, discovering that the Ancient One from Doctor Strange lore long ago stumbled upon the ruby gem of Sidorak in ancient Korea, only to be attacked by Zorak, the outcast. Ancient One triumphs and captures the demon monster thing in the ruby, where we know he dwells dormant until Cain Marco stumbles upon it in the Korean War and becomes Juggernaut. Learning this, the X-Men use Cerebro to try and find the Ancient One, but instead summon Doctor Strange's astral form. He sends Scott and Jean to the Temple of Sidorak to learn about Juggernaut, I guess. It's unclear, but they arrive, fight some Korean soldiers, and then use an incantation to enter the Crimson Cosmos and find themselves face to face with Zorak the Outcast.
So I think it ends up being very beneficial, right? That they go to the Crimson Cosmos, but you agree here, they don't know why they're going at this moment.
They don't know what they're doing, or what the actual plan is.
Doctor Strange shows up and they say, "What can you tell us about Sidorak?" And he says, "I think I can help. You have to go to the Crimson Cosmos. Here's an incantation to get to the Crimson Cosmos. You have 1 hour. You'll be stuck there forever. Have fun." And they're just like, "Yeah, okay."
I got the impression that he gave them like a mental idea, and they didn't know how to actually verbalize it. But when the moments came up, they were like, "Oh, okay, this is what he was trying to tell us with his weird mentalism."
Well, they do, yeah, because Cyclops does say that Doctor Strange gave them the incantation mentally, but there is a point out loud where he says he says, "Where you must repeat the incantation," which even now courses through your brains. So we see the moment where he gives them the incantation. We don't see a moment where he says, "And I'll tell you exactly why I'm doing
that's
this."
true. He just says, "Get in the ruby and then get out in an hour, or else you're dead forever."
yeah, and they're like, "Yeah, okay, we'll do that." And at this point, all they know is like they just want to know information, so it doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah, they're going through with it though, or Jean and Scott are at least.
Yes, which rules, and we'll talk about that.
But meanwhile,
Okay.
Angel, Beast, and Iceman are tasked with slowing the Juggernaut down, which they do by dropping a helicopter on him and fleeing into a wind tunnel. Scott and Jean in the Crimson Cosmos are fighting Zorak by throwing his weird red circles that wrap around people back at him. This is very hard to pronounce, even just reading
just
off of notes. Scott and Jean in the Crimson Cosmos are fighting Zorak.
Scott and Jean in the Crimson Cosmos are fighting Zorak.
Anyway, they're fighting Zorak by throwing his weird, they look like little red cinnamon buns that wrap around people back at him, then getting sucked into his mouth as he grows super huge, and then finding themselves back at the beginning of the encounter. The Crimson Cosmos, as it turns out, is a time loop, so they just throw Jean's pocket watch at Zorak, and he ages Raiders of the Lost Ark style into a pile of dust, and they escape with the ruby.
What a lucky turn of events.
They get so close to an interesting science fiction concept here and are just afraid to really scratch at what being a being out of time means.
Right. Roy Thomas is like, how would somebody get out of this? I guess a pocket watch.
Well, so the idea is he doesn't understand time, but he is exposed to time. And once he understands it, he's like, oh no, this means I have to age.
I've been doing it wrong this whole time?
We get back to Earth. They immediately fly to the Juggernaut, who has already beaten up Warren, Bobby, and Hank's wind tunnel trap, and is now in a knockdown, drag-out fight with the boys. Jean and Scott arrive and try to sap Juggernaut's powers into the ruby, but he grabs it and disappears in a ball of heatless flame.
Oh yeah, that's right. Cold
the X-Men,
light.
Yes, cold red fire. The X-Men, a little conflicted about what just happened, head back to the mansion, only to find that Professor X is missing.
No way. Zorak, instant loser league candidate. Just immediately. Just the moment 100%. He shows up, you're like, this guy's loser league. And the more he talks, the more you're like, yes, this man is loser league.
Yeah. I feel for him too. He's not the bad guy in this situation. They have to battle him. He's extremely powerful, but really this is a temple that was meant to hold an artifact that would be too powerful for people to get their hands on.
Yeah.
And Zorak is a construct of some sort, or a demon. It's figure that was created. He looks like the demon from DC Comics.
Oh, Etrigan.
He looks like a frumpy green Etrigan.
Like if Etrigan was one of the new gods.
Right, but also like had the Dilbert's boss's head. He looks like it's the silhouette of Dilbert's boss, but they drew a lot more wrinkles in because Scott Adams is a fucking hack. He's just doing his job. He's here to protect the ruby. And for some reason, he gets trapped inside the prototype of the ruby, which is different from the actual ruby.
This whole thing's confusing. The Ancient One discovers the ruby, which Zorak is the guardian of. We later find out that Zorak, after he was sucked into the ruby, is no longer Zorak. He is the outcast. And the Zorak was a demon created by Sidorak to protect the ruby. But this is the outcast who protects the prototype of the ruby. I don't even think, Roy Thomas doesn't know what this means.
Yeah, that's very true. He's goofy looking. His existence in this comic doesn't quite make sense. He is immediately defeated by the Ancient One despite his overconfidence, and then outsmarted by two teenagers. 100% loser league candidate.
I really like that little adventure though. This is the first time we see Scott and Jean like go off together, like be a team, and immediately they crush it. Like immediately their chemistry is palpable.
Yeah.
Immediately they have like a great sense of teamwork. They're holding hands a lot. Like there's a scene where they have to hold hands to do their incantation, and then the next panel they're just still holding hands. It's very cute.
I love, maybe I'm reading too much into it, but sort of the implied trust between them too that's that exists because of their infatuation for each other.
I would say that this is a purely positive representation of the two of them as a couple if Cyclops wasn't constantly referring to her as girl and the narrator referring to her as girl, just like constantly.
Everyone's doing it in this issue.
This astonishing girl mutant sends the discs careening backwards. Why do you?
The girl mutant.
Yeah.
There's a scene earlier where she's explaining how to use the mental wave amplifier.
Right.
And she brings it out and explains to the X-Men exactly why she's bringing it out and exactly what it'll do to help them get into Professor X's head. She details the plan from start to finish, and everybody says, "Atta girl." And then Warren says, "Wait, what if we use this to try to tap into the unconscious professor's subconscious mind?" Like, he explains the plan right back to Jean.
He just mansplains immediately.
It's amazing. She's not respected. And you're right, even by the writers.
Yeah, it's not great. I guess we should talk about Juggernaut. First of all,
yeah,
this isn't Juggernaut, right? This is just a generic Roy Thomas villain. He's constantly monologuing. He's speaking in that sort of overblown, like, "Ha! I have defeated the accursed X-Men. No one shall stand up to me, the Juggernaut, a towering, like a towering monolith of power." It's not fucking Juggernaut.
He's too poetic. He's supposed to be like a kid raised mean.
Yeah, he's just a bully that becomes a big strong man.
Speaking of becoming a big strong man, Matt, where are his beautiful calves?
Well, they're there. I think this is about the colorist rather than the
Yeah, you might be right. The muscles are there. They're just colored the color of his suit now instead of his skin.
Right, and there's a line between his like boxers and his boots that could easily have been flesh colored, and we would have seen those beautiful hairless calves.
All right, Werner Roth off the hook, still batting 1,000.
Werner Roth, horny as hell for this Juggernaut. Lots of butts,
but lots that damn prude colorist.
Iceman and Bobby and Warren, they get there, like tasked with stopping Juggernaut, and their very first idea is, let's chop them up with the blades of our.
Oh my god! How gruesome!
Like, it doesn't work. Thank fucking god, because they don't know it's not going to work. They try to chop him up with the helicopter blades.
That is so extreme. While we're bitching about stuff here,
okay,
on the cover, we're promised a Doctor Strange appearance. How exciting! Doctor Strange, the X-Men, the weirdest little team of superheroes, and Doctor Strange, the strangest superhero.
Right.
Meeting up for what must be this colorful, psychedelic explosion of mysticism and science. Instead, we get a fully colorless Doctor Strange popping in for a few panels. It's his astral form. So instead of the grand outfit with all sorts of colors and patterns, we just see a blue silhouette of him. We barely even get a glimpse at his fucking sick mustache. And then
yeah, he's in 4 panels, just to be clear.
And he's just against like the plain orange background and the gray supercomputer that they're all working off of.
Yeah.
It's boring. This Doctor Strange, if Doctor Strange has one thing going for him, because nothing else about him makes sense, it's that he's colorful and eye-catching, and everything around him is mystic.
Yeah, it is a little disappointing. They really do chunk up Cyclops' visor, though. He looks bizarre.
They do. They look
so
like
big
ski goggles.
All right. Are you ready to... Let's move on to issue 34.
Matt? I'm going to stop you right there. I have one more thing I need to mention because it's happened in I think every Werner Roth penned Juggernaut issue so far, he loves including one panel where the X-Men are framed by Juggernaut's legs on either side and his butt right up at the top. We're going to start counting if he comes back.
Issue 34, War in a World of Darkness. Edited by Stan Lee, scripted by Roy Thomas, drawn by Dan Adkins, and lettered by Jay Feldman. We don't have an inker here, so I imagine Dan Adkins is doing his own inks.
Yeah, which isn't uncommon at the time. They were kind of stretched and letting, especially a guest artist, come in and do whatever they wanted.
Released on May 9th, 1967, the X-Men, reeling from Professor X's kidnapping, are trying to repair Cerebro and finding themselves snapping at each other. Jean, after threatening to spank Bobby and Warren, heads back to college, where Ted Roberts, who thankfully has a head wound, calls her to say his brother's been captured and he needs the X-Men's help. Cyclops and Beast stay behind to try and locate the professor, while Angel, Iceman, and Marvel Girl head to Roberts' research to see what's up with stupid Ted Roberts. Ted tells them that he and his brother were playing with Cobalt again when a weird villain named Tyrannus emerges from below the earth, barges in, punches Ted, and kidnaps Ralph back into his big earth hole, saying he needs him to defeat his arch foe, Mole Man. Ted gives the gang a car made of, quote, super cobalt to fly into the hole, and everyone keeps calling Angel Scott, but I think that's an accident. Using the car's laser, they bore into a giant underground cavern where they're attacked by the Mole Man. They fight some moloids and then chase after Mole Man, who lures them into the river Leith from Greek mythology. And they breathe in its vapors, and they all get a complete amnesia.
I can't believe he found that.
It's just laying around.
Their river Leith.
Meanwhile, Ralph is making a giant man out of super cobalt. It's a big robot. It's made to look like a Roman centurion. The robot comes to life, and Ralph refuses to make any more, getting himself sent to Tyrannus' dungeon. Meanwhile, Scott and Hank are here now. Meanwhile, Mole Man is showing off his diamond android, his giant diamond android, to the amnesiac X-Men, who are now his slaves. Meanwhile, Tyrannus is drinking from the Fountain of Youth, which apparently sustains him. Meanwhile, the diamond android is attacking Tyrannus' underground castle.
The narrator has to step in here at one point and say, look, we know we're switching locations a lot. Please try to follow along.
This narrator seems very, very confused by switching scenes, which is
not confident.
But it is a little excessive, right? Like, we cut to 2 panels of Cyclops and Beast arriving and climbing down like a rope. And at another point we cut to, what is it? Again, 2 panels of Tyrannus just explaining how he stays young by drinking from the Fountain of Youth. Like, why did we need that?
Yeah, it looks like they drew squares around somebody's sketch pad. Just everybody's doing poses and pointless things.
Yeah. So Tyrannus sends out his Cobalt robot to fight the Diamond Android that's destroying his castle, and the Cobalt robot wins, but like off panel. Like, the narrator needs to step in.
Cobalt robot.
The narrator needs to step in and tell us that even though we don't see it, the Diamond Android has fallen down a cavern and is gone. Still missing their memories and believing Mole Man is their master, Angel, Marvel Girl, and Iceman help to destroy the Cobalt robot and knock it into lava, right? We find out that apparently it was destroyed that easily because Ralph Roberts sabotaged it. He then takes advantage of Tyrannus' surprise to sucker punch him, which, accomplishes absolutely nothing. The amnesiac...
He was a boxer in high school.
The amnesiac X-Men then burst in to fight Tyrannus themselves. Meanwhile, Cyclops and Beast arrive at Mole Man's house, and Cyclops karate chops him. The three of them, they force him into their cobalt car, and they all drive to Tyrannus's house, and Angel attacks them, but Cyclops has an antidote gun that he found at Mole Man's house, again off panel, and the X-Men get their memories back. They make Tyrannus and Mole Man breathe the River Lathe vapors, and then they leave them there with no memories, and that's the end of the issue. What the fuck, man?
This is so depraved, Matt. This issue... Okay.
They just handed Dan Adkins, they were just like, I don't know, do whatever, man. Do whatever, man. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think... okay. Away from Dan Adkins, he's a guest writer, so this story is going to be a little
guest
nutty.
Artist.
Guest artist. Story's going to be a little nutty. We're going to... And I'm not interested in this, but what we're getting is the petty squabbles of two dorks who don't leave their basements. It is... It doesn't need to involve the X-Men in any way. Mole Man, anytime I see him appear in any comic, I am upset. I am viscerally angry about it because he is a terrible villain and should have just stuck with the Fantastic Four. He doesn't deserve to break containment.
How does he survive? Like, he doesn't have powers. He can't survive on the surface world. Like, he's just a guy who controls a bunch of weird, like, putty monsters.
He's a guy who didn't want to step outside again. He is just he's awful. He's the worst.
He's a villain who should have been killed in the 1960s, right? Like the Moloids should have continued to exist, right? That whole
Reed Richards should have shot him in the head.
But I just mean that whole he seems like one of those villains who comes out, makes a big splash, creates a set of lore for the book, but then like dies really early on. Yeah. Doesn't he? He feels like one of those villains, but he sticks around, and he's
still popping up in comics. On top of that, last time we saw Cobalt used, upon its activation, it turned into a giant Cobalt bomb. They kept calling it a C bomb, which means something else. But no one even asks if this Cobalt car will turn into a bomb like that Cobalt suit did.
No, they just get into it and drive around.
And Frank's not there to say it won't. They just say, a Cobalt car, awesome. Now we can drive to the center of the earth. Above all of that, Ralph Roberts, you are as despicable and cowardly as your brother. Your choice here is to die yourself. You die. Or you build a robot to conquer the entire human race. And you're choosing the latter. You say, he says over and over again, I have no choice. He'll kill me if I don't design a super weapon that will destroy the entire human race.
Yeah. Yeah. What I love about that sequence is that Tyrannus is like, hurry up. You have to work faster. But like, he doesn't just design like a big Cobalt robot. He makes it like look like a Roman centurion with muscles, with pectoral muscles and calf muscles and like a chiseled jaw. Like, he still is like,
he's got a full outfit on.
Yeah, Tyrannus is... I don't know which one. I don't know if it's Ralph Roberts is like, I can't do this that fast if you want. And Tyrannus is like, no, he must look sexy. Or if Tyrannus is like, you have to hurry up. And Ralph Roberts is like carving out one of his triceps. And it's like,
this is my art.
If you want this done right... I still just don't know why everybody who makes a robot in the Marvel Universe has to spend time making its boobs and butts and pectorals and swim lines on its on its pelvis. Like, I do not know why this happens every single time there's a robot.
They're beautiful, though.
Yeah, every robot is beautiful. That's what we have to say here. In case the robot uprising comes and we are placed before the robot judges, we here at Mutant Menace feel that every robot is beautiful.
I'm going to take a stand here, Matt, and let you know that there's a robot in a couple issues that is not beautiful.
Okay. Hey, man, it's your trial.
All right. Well, before we get there, let me ask you, Matt.
Yes.
A couple questions about Tyrannus.
Sure.
Or Tyrannus.
I think it's Tyrannus.
Tyrannus.
Okay.
How tall is Tyrannus?
Hold on. Let me flip through a little bit.
Yeah, check a few panels and see how he sizes up compared to the Mole Man, compared to Slim Summers.
Okay, yeah, he's taller than Ralph. He's now he's the same height as Ralph.
Yeah, he's also shorter than Ralph at one point.
The Mole Man actually is the same size as Iceman, Angel, and Jean Grey. I always thought the Mole Man was supposed to be
He's not
tiny.
There's a lack of perspective in this. There's actually there were a few panels that really frustrated me because I had to sit and stare at them to figure out who was in the background and who was in the foreground. Let me ask you another question about.
I want to hear your question, but I want to say panel where Mole Man is the same size as Iceman, Angel, and Jean is not perspective related.
They're just standing in a line.
They are standing in a line. Yeah, very strange. Okay,
that happens. Can you please describe his outfit?
Okay, yeah. He's wearing.
I think the cover is your best look. I've really pored over this.
Okay, yeah, he's wearing like a little skirt, like a little Roman skirt, with a big wrestling belt on.
Okay,
that wrestling belt has suspenders,
but not suspenders to hold his skirt up.
No, to hold his cape
onto his bare chest and shoulders.
His bare chest and shoulders. He's got gauntlets and Roman boots. There's a chain between the two fasteners of his cape, and his cape has a very big collar.
Yeah, I mean that's about the stretch.
He's mostly nude.
For a lot of the issue, I'm looking at the cover and I see the wrestling belt you're describing. Mm-hmm. What I saw in most of the issue was a man with a cape that had a bolo tie coming off of it and a Flava Flav watch-sized pendant.
Yeah, I think that's his belt, but I could see how you would have thought that was part of some like necklace.
I've never met this man outside of this X-Men comic. This isn't his first appearance, right?
It is not. I don't know if he's just supposed to be the Tyrannus from Greek mythology. You know how they loved to do that back then.
Yeah.
Right, like Warlock said he was Merlin.
There's no copyright on this, so you can use them as much as you want.
Yeah, Tyrannus, also known as Casper Clayton, is a Marvel Comics villain and an enemy of the Hulk.
Okay.
He's also named Romulus Augustulus. That's not a name!
Augustulus.
Okay, why in one wiki is he called Casper Clayton?
Casper Clayton, there we go.
And in another wiki, his name is Romulus Augustulus. He first appeared in Incredible Hulk number 5, which is 5 years before this issue.
I feel like the Hulk would squash him.
Yeah. He's still
the fountain of youth.
His most recent appearance appears to have been 2025, so he's still fucking going on. Some writers still look at Tyrannus and go, I'm inspired.
What a fucking dork. What a jork.
There's him.
There's jerk and dork.
There's a picture on his wiki of him fighting Black Knight, which I think would be I would be cool with that.
Yeah, that sounds like an appropriate matchup of relevance. I'm not done with the moral depravity.
Please.
The existential horror of the state that they leave Mole Man and Tyrannus in. Just all of your memories fully erased, left in a park to see what happens. Put these men in prison. Like this is
this is called cruel and unusual punishment.
This is So much worse. I have 2 lines from this issue that I want to express. Number 1, Warren at one point tells somebody that they look like the night shift from the Ugly Factory. I thought that was great. I'm going to start using that.
Okay.
And then
That's
Bobby,
good.
he said it once last issue, and now he says it twice this issue. He says, "Holy Hannah." I hate this. Someone needs to tell him to stop.
How would you react if you heard somebody say that in real life? If you were on the, I don't know, subway, right?
Yeah. And who's saying it? Like a 3-year-old?
No, this is a college-aged man.
Then it's ridiculous.
Do you fight them? Do you say, "What the fuck"?
No, I don't fight. Who am I? The X-Men?
What do you do? So what do you do?
Do I know this person?
Let's try both scenarios. And first scenario, you don't. You're standing next to them. You're at the subway. Somebody does something wild, and somebody says, "Holy Hannah! Did you guys see that?"
I turn to the person next to me and say, "This guy just said, 'Holy Hannah.'"
All right, now it's somebody you know. It's
you.
It's me.
We're riding
best friend.
the bus together, and you say, "Holy Hannah!"
Yeah, there's a car crash outside the bus as we're driving past. We're both shocked. We're both a little like, I don't want it to just be like you're perfectly in your right mind.
Yeah, sure.
And somebody else is. We're both shocked. And you're like, "Oh my God." And I say, "Holy Hannah."
Probably after we're like decompressing,
okay.
Once the situation is taken care of, I would roast you. It's how we bring ourselves back, a little levity, talking about how stupid it was that as a knee-jerk reaction, you said, Hannah.
Also, yeah, I have a ex-girlfriend named Hannah, so it would be even more creepy.
Oh,
if
yeah,
that was
would
my
be
expression.
Really weird.
Yeah. I just shouted all my ex-girlfriends' names whenever something bad happened.
I kept picturing Hannah Horvath from Girls.
All right, so
issue 35.
Thank you,
Matt. I really appreciate you letting me take this one. The title is "Along Came a Spider." I have been waiting for this moment since we started this podcast. Stan Lee presents a Roy Thomas, Werner Roth towering triumph of titanic talent and tumultuous toil, inked by Dan Adkins, lettered by Jerry Feldman. They're really turning over letterers these days. Not important, but
would you like that job?
No, these are the worst words in the world, and fucking Roy Thomas has so many of them.
Too many.
Cover date August 1967, release date June 8th, 1967. The Banshee is back, baby. He's flying around Central Europe looking for Factor 3. He flies past a guy up on a mountain with one of those giant horns who looks just like Professor X's Beard Man disguise. He does find Factor's 3 base in a mountain where a weird mechanical spider zaps him. He manages to escape and fly back to his rented chalet where he has some crazy high-tech machinery, sends a coded message to the X-Men, but he passes out before he sends the whole thing. So all the X-Men get in this message is beware the spider.
Pat, I am always bewaring spiders. I don't know about you. I don't need a message to beware the spider. I am always bewaring them.
I'm not going to like start a friendship with the spider, but they're useful. They're great creatures to coexist with.
Yes, but I am bewaring them. Don't come near me if you're a spider.
You're never more than 3 feet from a spider, Matt.
That can't be true.
The X-Men, still searching for any sign of the professor after his kidnapping, receive Banshee's message just as Cerebro shows them that trouble approaches just off the mansion's property. Meanwhile, Peter Parker, needing a break from his bustling New York City lifestyle, takes his moped out to Westchester and decides to stop by a stream and channel his inner Thoreau, he says.
Pat.
Yes.
You are a huge Spider-Man fan.
Yes.
Biggest I know.
And Peter Parker is Spider-Man.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Does Peter Parker generally ride around on a moped?
I haven't seen this before. He just calls it his bike, so it seems like he's familiar with it. But
so you've never seen Peter Parker ride a motorcycle in your 22 years of life.
Right. I don't think I've ever seen Spider-Man just like cruising on a moped. I'm sure there's a spider cycle somewhere in that long history across several mediums, but
yeah,
I have never seen him just driving like a plain old moped through the streets of Westchester, New York.
I'm almost positive that there are times that he, as a Spider-Man bit, he tells people he doesn't even have a driver's license.
Right.
I am positive I've read dialogue multiple times, Spider-Man saying, I don't even have a driver's license.
Well, he's been stranded outside of the city before because he just doesn't have a way to get back. He couldn't rent a car or he had to hitchhike. Fun little lore drop from, I'm going to say Werner Roth here, decided that Peter Parker rides a moped.
Peter Parker loves to ride his motorcycle around.
What's the Dennis Hopper, Peter Fonda movie that everybody loved in the 60s and 70s where they're just riding motorcycles across America? It's like
Is this one of these made-for-TV movies?
No, it's like a fucking foundation
Midnight
of
Cowboy.
American cinema. Easy Rider.
Easy Rider.
This actually predates Easy Rider by a couple of years. So
what you're saying is Easy Rider took inspiration.
Easy Rider was like, look at Peter Parker. Let's upgrade his clothing and turn the moped into a motorcycle. He pulls over, he stops by a stream, but as he's walking down to the stream, a flying saucer appears and drops off a spider-like robot. Peter is curious. He ducks into the nearby mill to change into his Spider-Man outfit, and as soon as he pops back out, the robot attacks him. Of course, it's Spider-Man, so he manages to wrestle and defeat the robot just before the X-Men without Jean arrive to investigate, as this is the spot that Cerebro directed them to. Seeing only Spider-Man as they pull up with the spider robot having disintegrated, they assume that he is the spider threat that Banshee warned about. Scott immediately pleads with the rest of the team to hang back until they can assess if Spider-Man is the threat. But Hank and Warren insist that there's no time for that now, and they attack. No individual X-Man at this time is capable of defeating Spider-Man on their own. So as they recklessly attack, Spidey is able to defensively avoid them each without causing them much harm.
This is an interesting moment because I think in this scene, Beast is written as not just superficially smart like he normally is, right? Normally he's just being a guy, but he uses big words. But in this moment, it's Beast who recognizes, oh, Spider-Man hasn't made any overt moves towards us. He's the only one that's noticed that Spider-Man is only being defensive and has not attacked.
That doesn't stop him, though.
No, he still jumps at him.
Still continue to attack Spider-Man. Back at the mansion, Jean continues to try to contact Banshee and monitors Cerebro for any updates. But back by the stream, once each of the X-Men is disposed with individually, Scott's pleas to try to reason with Spider-Man are finally recognized. But at this point, Spider-Man is being rude to them. Very reasonable, all things considered, but we know how the X-Men react to an unpleasant disposition. They attack in full force. They manage to get the upper hand on Spidey, who escapes to the creek, giving everyone a moment to breathe. Cyclops receives a message from Jean on his watch that the threat Cerebro alerted them to disappeared as soon as they left the mansion. A soggy Spider-Man emerges from the creek ready for round 3, but the X-Men tell him there's no time for that now as they explain what they just learned. This couldn't possibly have been Spider-Man, the threat. Spider-Man mentions that the alert and message they're describing from Banshee were probably about the spider robot he just fought. The X-Men and Spider-Man part ways full of resentment for each other, and Spider-Man comments on the fact that they drive away in a Rolls-Royce. As the X-Men arrive back at the mansion in that Rolls-Royce, Jean has solved the mystery of Banshee's message. The X-Men are heading to Europe.
Woo! So this is another thing about Spider-Man that I was not aware of. It's that Spider-Man has a short temper, and once it's aroused, he just wants to fight. I've never seen that from Spider-Man before, but twice in this issue, something like he has been avoiding conflict until somebody pissed him off, and now he's like, all right, I'm going to fuck you up.
Yeah, that's actually true to character for Spider-Man.
Okay.
He does, I don't think he's got a short temper as much as he is like he's very principled, right? So in this case, he's saying, I'm trying to reason with you. I don't think we should be fighting this entire time. And he's trying to hold himself back. And when it doesn't get respected, that's when he loses his temper.
Right.
Sort of like if you kidnap his wife.
I mean, yeah, I get if you kidnap his wife, he's going to want to kill you.
Yeah. I mean, both are very frustrating.
I think it is clever the way that Spider-Man kills the spider robot by making it blow itself up.
Yeah, bending its head over so that it directs its laser beams to its own body.
Usually you got to get a rib removed for that. Sorry.
Oh.
Sorry. I mean, that is the moment that never. Look,
It evoked that for you, Matt?
It evoked that for... Did it not evoke that for you?
No. That's strictly you.
Okay. All right, well, me and you just have different Saturday nights, I guess. Here's another thing. Jean discovers that the Cerebro stopped going off as soon as Spider-Man defeated the spider robot, right? So the robot was a mutant?
Yeah. I've thought this through.
Okay.
And I think this is consistent in what we've read so far. Cerebro doesn't only track mutants, it can also recognize robotic dangers to mutants.
Okay, but Roy Thomas just also describes everything as a mutant. Remember when he described Warlock, the ancient magician Merlin, as a mutant, had Merlin then say, these Pegasi, I made them, they're mutants.
Right, his horses for mutants.
I just don't think Roy Thomas knows what a mutant is.
And yet he knows Spider-Man is not, despite his mutations.
Right.
There's some real editorial interference there to make sure that gets cleared up.
This is around the time that Stan Lee is leaving a lot of books and having other people take over, X-Men being one example. Mm-hmm. Do you think this is Roy Thomas trying to audition for the job of Spider-Man writer?
I have two theories, because Spider-Man is really well written here. I think he's very true to character. He's got a great mix of quips and dialogue that actually moves the story along.
Yeah.
He's either doing his best Stan Lee impression, or there was just a heavy rewrite by Stan Lee here, because some of the Roy Thomas flowery language is cleaned up. They speak a little more directly to each other instead of dancing around points like Roy Thomas likes to do, especially in the narration. And there's even a line here where the X-Men ask Spider-Man if he's heard of Factor 3, and he says, never heard of it. What is that? Some kind of secret ingredient. So Stan Lee's very distinct joke last episode was, what is that? Some kind of toothpaste? I think this is either just, maybe a very careful study of Stan Lee and what he wants out of an X-Men Spider-Man meetup, or Stan himself as editor-in-chief just went through two of his most valuable, or I guess the X-Men weren't that great, but two of his favorite creations and made sure that they stayed true to character.
We should note, Roy Thomas is the first person other than Stan Lee to ever write Spider-Man. He only does it for like 3 or 4 issues.
Yeah, and it's not for Stan a while too, right?
Yes, it's not till 1971, and then Stan Lee takes back over. So I don't know. I don't know what
we really are setting the impression that Roy Thomas, and this very well may be true, was just Stan Lee's sort of lackey that Stan Lee did not respect at all. He's just eternally looking for the approval that he's not going to get.
I don't know if Stan Lee respected him or not. I do know that he is often described as Stan Lee's lackey in histories of Marvel.
Okay.
So that is maybe where I'm getting this from, but I think there's a good chance that we are misreading some of these editors' notes, but if we are to interpret these editors' notes as coming directly from Stan Lee, they seem pretty passive aggressive almost every time.
Yes. On the other hand, though, I do like to throw out wild assumptions as fact. So
yeah, true. Yeah, I mean, well, that's what's fun. That's what a podcast is. Iceman keeps hitting people with a pole.
Yeah, he does. He also used a pole to lift that helicopter in the last issue.
Yeah, he's just using this pole every issue now. It's ice pole. That's his main thing. He just makes a pole out of ice and hits a guy with it, or tries to charge a guy with it.
It's pretty effective if you just.
Is it? When is it effective? It's effective in theory, but has it ever worked? Spider-Man knocks it apart.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's worked. I'm saying if I'm thinking about how to take down a bad guy with ice powers, just putting my hand forward and shooting a pole straight out that grows until it hits him in the head is pretty good.
Anton Chigurh style. Just
yes.
Lobotomize him.
Werner Roth. Let me say this. Okay. Incredible, right? He's done incredible things, and he's still doing that here. Really dynamic action. He's taking on a whole new hero that has a whole new set of moves, and he really understands how to make those two mix. I don't think he knows how to draw Spider-Man's head. It is an inconsistent scale. He's doing the tiny eyes too, which I know was
in animated series one.
In fashion for Spider-Man at the time, but he's doing really tiny eyes. And his head is just like, it doesn't fit anywhere. Every panel. He keeps trying to draw like a jawline in there when it just shouldn't be. Let's move on to issue 36.
X-Men 36. Mekano lives.
Mekano? You don't say Mekano?
I don't know when you're trolling and when it's how you actually pronounce something.
It's best that way. Keep going.
Stan Lee presents a Roy Thomas, Ross Andru panorama of Pandemonium Pack panels.
Ross Andru.
Inked by George Bell, lettered by Sam Rose, and yeah, it's a Ross Andru issue. Release date, July 11th, 1967. We open on Hank getting the jump on two burglars in the Xavier Man, the two unluckiest burglars on Earth, who did not properly case the place that they chose to rob. Meanwhile, the rest of the X-Men are in front of a supercomputer planning out their trip to Europe, realizing their biggest obstacle is that without the professor, they have no money. Hank finishes off the burglars after toying with them, and then the X-Men strap them into Cerebro and erase their memories.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Now, any old X-Man can erase memories. And they're all the proteges of Charles Xavier, who already erases memories pretty recklessly.
Loves doing it. And he's like, hey, I know this must have been a Christmas present, right? I know you guys love when I erase people's memories, and someday I might not be around. So I made this little device that gives people brain damage, minor brain damage, but it will rob them of their memories. So you guys can do it to your heart's content.
And the reason
he says, don't do anything I wouldn't do. And they're like, okay, you mean we should erase everyone's memory? Yes.
The reason they have to do it too is Hank decided to put on his costume to confront these burglars. He was like, oh, I just heard something going on. Let me go check it out. You know, it would be fun. Let me put on my superhero costume first. And then, because he shows up as a superhero in this mansion, they're like, now they know this is the X-Men's headquarters. We got to erase their memories.
The X-Men then brainstorm ways to get money to travel to Europe. Warren calls his obscenely rich parents who have just left on a cruise, so he can't get a hold of them. Nope. The X-Men secret jet doesn't have enough gas to leave the country. Warren and Jean they go to the bank to try and charm them into giving them a loan, but it does not work. That's not how banks work. Finally, they all decide that their best move, this is part of their superheroing jobs, their superheroing responsibilities. They decide it's time to go get jobs and earn money so that they can buy plane tickets to go rescue Professor X. Warren, Scott, and Jean pull up to an active construction site to ask for work, while Hank and Bobby head down to Greenwich Village with their own money-making schemes.
Now,
Scott, Jean, and...
Yeah. This was back when you could just walk up to a job site and say, hey, can I have a job?
I'm sure, yeah.
This is why our parents are always like, have you just gone down to the office and shook somebody's hand when you're looking for a job?
Yeah, that's all it took back in the 1960s. Yeah. You did a firm enough handshake. You didn't even need to sign anything. You already had the job. You look
him in the eye. You shake his hand. You call him Mister. They also assumed it would be a man.
And he gives you $50,000 a year.
Yeah.
Which at that time bought you 2 houses. Scott, Jean, and Warren, all in costume, break every OSHA regulation to trick the foreman into thinking they're capable of constructing a building in just minutes. But they're denied employment because they're non-union. Womp womp.
Yeah.
Also, it turns out Warren parked the Rolls illegally and got towed, so a stranger named Tom Regal offers them a ride downtown in his brand new VW Beetle to find Hank and Bobby.
They make a point of explaining that it is a brand new Volkswagen Beetle and that his name is Tom Regal.
Along the way, Tom reveals 2 things. Number 1, he's got a secret science project in his backseat. Number 2, his dad is rich, but Warren, for some reason, feels he can't relate.
Look, I don't know what that's like, man.
We find Bobby and Hank in Washington Square Park, balancing on 10-foot ice pillars and juggling. Hank is using his feet, of course. They've drawn quite a crowd, but before they can ask for money, a costumed man calling himself Mekano appears on top of the Washington Square arch, promising to destroy the nearby Memorial Library. He falsely credits Beast and Iceman for helping him. People love to do this to the X-Men.
It works every time.
Just be like, hey, I'm with them. And everyone's like, oh, those X-Men.
The police, as soon as he says it, the police are like, well, that guy's up on the arch and he's jumping really far. But we can get these guys that are right in front of us.
Right. It gives the police something to focus on. As Mekano tries to flee for the library, the police arrest Bobby and Mekano punches Hank real hard in the solar plexus and runs straight through the library window. The rest of the X-Men arrive at the scene to find Mekano destroying books and declaring the written word useless. But before they can take action, the police show up pointing guns at them. Jean manages to use telekinesis to remove their guns. Mekano proves too strong and fast for the X-Men to catch. He jumps out a high window, hoping to land on the roof of the building across the street, but he doesn't make the jump. On the ground, a well-dressed man is getting out of a limousine just in time to see Jean telekinetically catch Mekano and lower him for a soft landing. The well-dressed man reveals that this is his library and that he is pretty sure he knows who Mekano is. That's right. It's his son, Tom Regal, and this is the rich father he resents. Tom explains that he was tired of just being known as a rich man's son and was really just acting out to get his dad's attention. The dad takes full responsibility and offers to cover the cost of the X-Men's plane tickets to Europe, $1,500, which is $15,000 in that era's money.
And it isn't a drop in the bucket for him.
He does it as thanks for keeping Tom out of trouble. The X-Men board the plane, and we see they're being watched by the mysterious Factor 3. Mekano, he's just a guy who's just like, yeah, I just wanted to be a supervillain.
It's not just that he wanted to be a supervillain. It's that he wanted to get his dad's attention. That's where it gets into like what the Marvel bullpen apparently considers tearjerker territory. This whiny rich kid causing chaos, crying about it afterwards, and having to face absolutely no consequences for it. His dad is $15,000 less rich.
Yeah.
Moral depravity, Matt. That's the name here.
Rich kid daddy issues. Yeah. It's a really fun idea, though, that the impetus for this issue is the X-Men are like, we need to get jobs. We can't go save the world. We can't go save the professor. We don't know how to get across the Atlantic Ocean.
That is so relatable.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is what it would happen to us if we became superheroes. And be like, how do we get there?
Yeah, we would really struggle, Matt. We would be like, all right, if I work for a month, I'll have enough money for the plane tickets and rent, and I do have that concert I have to go to. Like, it would be like getting engaged.
In what way would it be like getting engaged?
The expense and the amount of planning you should put into it.
I do again really like this idea. I like the idea of we have to raise money. It would, like you're saying, we would see something happening. Even if we had superpowers, we would see something happening a couple towns away and be like, okay, what do? We gotta drive there, I guess.
What time's the bus get here?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this issue?
I didn't like it. I do like them getting jobs. I love that continuing in that spirit of them being absolute goofy hippies.
Yeah.
Hank and Bobby are just down at Washington Square Park busking. What really bugs me, Matt, is that this was supposed to hit us hard emotionally. That moment at the end.
That's what you just keep coming back to.
I'm sorry. Yeah. But even the narration explains that the entire writer's room had to pull out some tissues over this passionate speech that Tom Riegel gives his dad. And it's really just like, I'm bored.
Yeah. I've been kicking around in my head. Why does Mekano not feel like loser league material? And it's probably that, right? That most of these loser league guys are just thoughtlessly developed and included.
Yes.
Right. Zorak, nobody put a lot of thought into Zorak. Nobody put a lot of thought into Porter Mac, right?
And yet somehow they're so well developed.
But somebody put a lot of thought into Mekano, and he's still kind of sucks.
And he's still underbaked,
yeah. And so I think that's what, like, even though he is a loser, you'd think he would be loser league material. He's just not.
Also, sorry, I'm gonna go back to my list of things that bug me.
Please.
The very beginning of the issue, he just shows up. He introduces himself with first and last name and a few other identifying qualities. This is going to be your villain. This is the person that you're going to have to deal with. And his name is Tom Riegel.
He's a rich kid named Riegel. Yeah. Yeah.
Can I mention a thing that I hate that's not about Tom Riegel?
Please.
And this is why I told Bobby he needs to stop it in the last issue. Now Scott is saying Holy Hannah.
Okay. All right, Pat, I think you need to move on to recap the next issue.
Okay. Issue number 37. We, the Jury. Stan Lee presents a Roy Thomas, Ross Andru apex of atomic age accomplishment, delineated by Don Heck, Matt. Lettered by Artie Simek, jury stacking by Honest Irv. Don Heck.
Okay, yeah.
Co-creator of Iron Man.
Yeah.
Artist of the Avengers, immediately following Jack Kirby leaving. He created Wonder Man, who is another character I think is terrible, but is still is such a monumental secondary figure in the Marvel Universe. This guy is questionable quality, but Marvel royalty.
You know who else he created? Count Nefaria.
Shit. We open on a mysterious figure in an incredible helmet, watching the X-Men's past triumphs, studying their moves in order to defeat them from Factor 3 headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
The X-Men, meanwhile, are flying commercial to Europe when they find their plane under attack by a mysterious flying saucer.
Whoa!
Understanding that they are the targets, the X-Men run to the back and jump out of the plane with half a plan. As suspected, the saucer disengages with the commercial airliner and starts following the X-Men in their descent from the plane. Scott pulls some fucking rad moves and manages to shoot the saucer out of the air while he's in midair, but he does lose his glasses in the process and has to do the rest of the fall with his eyes closed.
A really cool sequence, but I do want to, and there's more to the sequence that you'll explain, I'm sure. But I do want to point out from the rest of that airplane's perspective, right? They don't know what caused the airplane to shake, right? So from their perspective, they're just flying on their flight to Europe. The plane experiences some pretty extreme turbulence, and 5 teenagers run for the door of the plane, rip it open, and jump out, and then the plane is back, and then everything's back to normal. The plane stops getting turbulence.
That had to make the news, right?
Yeah, it had to. It had to be like 5 teenagers leapt out of a plane today. International authorities are still searching for the bodies.
So we get this brilliant, it's like 4.5 page sequence of the X-Men falling out of the plane. We're getting a ton of different perspectives. We're getting some really, like I said, sick moves. The team works together to avoid hitting the ground at a high speed through a combination of Warren's wings and Jean's telekinesis slowing them down, and Bobby creating an ice slide to help kind of readjust their descent so that they hit the ground at an angle instead of straight on. Upon landing, they're immediately confronted with a spider robot. Jean easily dispatches of it by making it suck its own dick like Spider-Man did. But they quickly find themselves surrounded by spider robots and 2 hooded figures that are declaring them prisoners of Factor 3. The X-Men try to escape. They run away, but even that is a trap. They run into a cloud of knockout gas and come to in a giant snow globe. As they look up, they are greeted by 4 separate video monitors, each of them containing a separate early X-Men villain, the Vanisher, Unis, the Blob, and Mastermind, all revealing they've been working together to take down the X-Men and help Factor 3.
Still saying Unis, huh?
That's right. We're all over the place on this episode.
Okay.
This is shocking to the X-Men, but before they can process it, a platform approaches from behind with a costumed character shouting at them as a shadowy figure hovers above on a higher platform. The costume character introduces himself as the Changeling and reveals that this is a trial for the X-Men's crimes against mutant kind. Mm-hmm. The Changeling is their prosecutor. The shadowy figure is known as the Mutant Master, and he is their judge. And the 4 early X-Men villains are witnesses to and victims of their alleged crimes. The 4 villains recount how they were poised to destroy humanity until the X-Men interfered. And given no due process, the X-Men are quickly found guilty and sentenced to oblivion. Before they're destroyed, though, the Mutant Master reveals Factor 3's master plan, which is nuclear war. Factor 3 has already planted a bomb at a meeting of the USSR that will implicate the US, starting a nuclear World War III and destroying all humans. The X-Men are hooked up to an Oblivio ray, but they're able to destroy it by having Bobby create a bunch of ice crystals over the machine where they melt and short-circuit it. They fight a robot guard, go looking for Mutant Master, but he reveals via video monitor that they are still trapped in this complex and helpless to stop Factor 3's plan. To be continued.
I like that we're getting somewhere with the Factor 3 plot.
Yes.
And I like that Roy Thomas is like getting back to the X-Men comic deals with mutant matters.
Yes.
It's not just a parade of weird rich kids in mechanical outfits. That just seems to be Roy Thomas's, like, that's the thing he likes. He likes guys. He likes guys in suits. Also, you mentioned this idea that now the X-Men are having to face some of their mutant foes and answer for mutant crimes, brings us back to this theme of what is the role of mutants in the world. Are they a separate species and a separate nation? Are they a separate people? Or are they members of the human race, which is the ideological split here? What we have here, Mastermind, who somehow is no longer
Somehow he
Stone
returned.
anymore. Yeah. Not
He
entirely clear how.
mentions that it was only temporary. The being turned
Oh,
to
good for
stone.
him. How lucky for him that the stranger was like, I should put a timer on this thing. Also, that implies that the X-Men lost track of his stone body.
Oh, right. They had him in safe holding.
They had him. Yeah.
They were keeping him as a statue on the property.
Yeah, I wonder what they were doing with him. But then you got Eunice, the Blob, who they did very
Blob
specifically wrong.
Blob innocent.
Blob innocent. Yeah, they did specifically wrong the Blob. And then Mastermind. Eunice. Who am I missing?
The Vanisher.
Oh, and then the Vanisher, who
back with his funky hood.
I don't know what they did wrong with the Vanisher wasn't trying to score one for mutants. He was just robbing a bank.
Yeah,
right.
And stealing national defense plans.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
To
I guess that if what's being said here is that the X-Men are getting in the way of mutant terrorism, then that's true. That's true with the Vanisher. So then, okay, Vanisher belongs here. Yeah, I like this. How do you feel?
I did enjoy it. I think, well, Scott says Holy Hannah again. I think it's a joke at this point. They're to upset me, but
they're doing it for your benefit or for your lack of benefit.
That aside, I am fascinated by the as I know I've already said it, but the jumping out of a plane sequence. I think it is. I mean, it's drawn extremely well. It's very exciting. They're getting a lot of different angles. They're not over explaining the action. To Roy Thomas's credit, they're just kind of like they're giving you just enough to understand how we got from panel A to panel B. And they're figuring it out as they fall to the ground. They're having a conversation. It's like when Satan's buddies, Satan's saints came in last episode, and they just kind of sprung into that teamwork mentality and figured it out as they went. They're doing that again here. I really love that this is becoming more and more of a trend.
Right, they are just perfect. Well, and they needed that after they so royally fucked up the Spider-Man fight.
Yeah, they needed a win because the last couple of issues were them just kind of bumbling. And we haven't been getting nearly as much evolution of the X-Men as we were in the Stan Lee era. So it's nice to see that kind of coming back too. And then, I was legitimately surprised when I saw that it was the Vanisher, Eunice, the Blob, and Mastermind being behind this. And there's not ultimately behind this, but serving a purpose here. I was like, oh shit, they got the mutants back together. They pulled one from each one from each weird little sticky situation the X-Men found themselves in.
Yeah.
Is the metaphor here nationalism? And maybe I'm reading too much into it again, but because they're jumping back into mutant stuff, I immediately want to find a political parallel. And all I can really read into it is, there's one group in power that is persecuting people without any sort of due process. And then there is the group being persecuted, which represents sort of a countercultural view. Not as, I think mutant kind is sort of a stand-in for patriotism and the fact that these terrible people just see being a mutant as its own virtue and can kind of do whatever they want from there.
I see what you're saying. honestly, I don't think, and this isn't to say that we shouldn't talk about it in those respects, but I honestly don't think Roy Thomas has any of that in his head. Like,
He
where
was
I
just,
think,
oh, look at these jorks.
yeah, it's a bunch of jorks. Yeah, I think, like for Roy Thomas, he just likes fight. He just likes supervillains. But I think, if anything, I think this is some sort of World War II metaphor, right? I think this is some sort of the Nazis would have done this.
Okay, yeah. It's not a comment on modern nationalism at the time. It's a comment on Nazism and the regime that's 20 years past now.
Exactly. I think if I were to guess, I would imagine that is where Roy Thomas is coming from here, and maybe there's a communism thing to it too.
Well, he's no J.R.R. Tolkien, I'll tell you that much.
I do not think that he is thinking in terms of American civil rights struggles.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
I think he is thinking in terms of what drives a person to be evil, and the trial, like you're saying, suggests some kind of politics. And if I had to guess, I would say that the politics here is how evil men justify their actions.
They also call what they're doing the Great Western Process of Jurisprudence.
Well, there's another thing, a Marvel Comics-y thing, is like, oh, even the villains somehow really believe in democracy.
Yeah, they really respect the American culture and government.
yeah, exactly.
A couple of shallower things. Number one, I'm going to ask you the same question. Can you describe the Changeling's outfit to me?
Oh my god. Yeah, he's got, what were those toys called?
Ooh, like the balls with the little plateaus that popped up on every side?
Yes, yeah. What were those called? Something
donkey balls?
Why do I want what donkey balls?
Look that up.
I don't want to say I want to say donk it, but that's definitely not what they're called. Doink it is doink it.
Doink it. Yes, his helmet looks like a doink it. That one is safe to Google for the listeners out there.
And it constantly changes between
orange and purple and purple and blue.
Exactly.
It's
the
like
colors
a dress.
The colors of his outfit change. And so it's a very weird hat. He's also got, so I guess Factor 3's logo is 3 screws.
Oh.
Like, those are on Banshee's helmet or Banshee's headband. They're on the doinket. They're on Changeling's chest.
Okay.
Also, he's wearing like a futuristic spaceman kind of, like a Flash Gordon villain might have been wearing this.
Yes.
It's like a one-piece vest and pants combo with big bulky boots, big bulky gloves, and like rims around his shoulders.
Yeah, and on his chest for some.
Oh, he's wearing like a satchel.
Real weirdo. You know who does look good though is every one of the X-Men as they're flying. People used to get dressed up to fly, Matt. They used to wear their best, and the X-Men are all doing it here.
The good old days, right?
Yeah, you could also smoke cigs on a plane.
You missed that?
Yes, I never knew it, but as a
former
smoker,
yeah.
This robot, here's my last esoteric, am I using that word right? This is not a beautiful robot.
Mm-mm. Which I respect. I respect that so much more, is when you just make a robot that's a robot.
Right. It has one arm, it's a flamethrower, one arm that's a wrecking ball, and a mouth that's a machine gun. And that's all.
Can I save us from our future robot overlords here? What we're both saying is that robots shouldn't have to conform to the standards of human beauty, right? It is ridiculous to constantly make robots resemble the beauty standards of humanity.
You are kissing ass, Matt.
Yes, I don't want to be fucking destroyed by the...
roll over on me when the robots come?
No, I'm helping you. Go ahead, continue what you were saying.
My last thing is, Ross Andru does bring back Juggernaut's legs. They are crazy muscular when he's going, and it fits the canon because he's going back and looking at their first encounter with Juggernaut.
Right.
So he wasn't wearing pants at that time, but Ross Andru really gives him some legs.
Now, do you think, okay, where do you stand on X-Men traitors to mutant kind or not? At this point, right? Try and erase everything else you know about the X-Men and all the future ideological arguments.
I'm going to say no, in the sense that their witnesses here are just trying to selfishly hurt people.
Yes, I would agree. I don't think the X-Men are always on the right side of the conflicts.
Right. Yeah. The Blob, of course, being the exception here.
Oh, yeah. You're right. No, I absolutely agree with that. No, I don't think the X-Men are always on the right side of the politics of mutanthood. But at this stage, there is not like a cohesive Magnetoian theory. Right.
Yeah.
At this stage, it's just a bunch of guys being villains.
And Magneto's goal at this stage is just human slavery. Like, he wants to dominate the world and turn non-mutants into his slaves.
Yeah, and he wants to do it because he's more powerful than them, not because he thinks that it'll make the world safer for mutants, which is one of his later goals. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think at this stage, the X-Men are entirely innocent.
Is that going to change? Are we going to get a compelling case for them being guilty in the next issue?
No.
Okay.
I think we might get a compelling case for them being guilty in 20 years or something.
Spoilers, man.
But do you have any other thoughts about issue 30, whatever, 37?
I don't think so. I have some thoughts on this run that we're covering in general.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was weird. What a weird run of issues. The settings they're in are strange. The villains they're fighting are strange. Even the mild progress we see in their social lives is kind of strange.
In what way?
Well, I mean, like, we see Scott and Jean go on a mission together and strengthen their bond. And I don't think that's necessarily bad, but like, they still haven't confessed their feelings to each other. I would love to see them work through that a bit more.
Right.
And then I think that's it. There's not really any other social stuff. There's a point.
No Vera and no
Zelda.
No Zelda.
No
and
Vera,
no Candy.
Zelda. No Candy. There's a point where they mention that they haven't
Southern
slept for.
If you don't know who Candy Southern is, that was a really weird sentence that you just heard me say.
They don't have any candy. There's a point in one of, I forget if it's 36 or 37, but they're on a plane and talking about how they haven't slept for 2 days. Like, they've been up nonstop dealing with the Juggernaut, dealing with the Mole Man and Tyrannus and Mekano. Like, they're going nonstop. They don't have a chance to live their lives.
That's a good point, and that's an interesting point. You're right. Huh.
Also, just kind of boring. It's fucking Roy Thomas uses so many words.
You're not liking this Roy Thomas run at all, huh?
It has ups and downs for me. The Spider-Man appearance was top notch. I think that was a really fun, stupid issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, like, where's the story? We know they're capable of it because Stan Lee and Jack Kirby were sort of pushing a story forward. We know Roy Thomas can do it. Like, it's not like this is not something that happens in comics in this era.
What story? Yeah,
just a little more continuity. And they try to do it with the Factor 3 stuff. I think that works kind of well, but it's spread out over the course of like a year.
Which might inspire some future X-Men stuff. And I do think inspires, again, not to keep jumping towards the future, but I think that does inspire actually Roy Thomas's second X-Men run.
Okay.
I'll
take your word for it.
But Yeah, in this first Roy Thomas run, it's just clear nobody's very inspired by the X-Men. I think.
Yes, and
I think maybe Stan Lee came in with some big ideas and ran out of them very quickly, and then Roy Thomas doesn't have many at all, right?
I don't think he likes them. I don't think he likes the
Yeah.
X-Men. I think
he feels like he's trapped on the book.
Exactly. And I do think Spider-Man was sort of his self-insert here of being a guy who is just frustrated with a room full of inferiors somehow being in a better position than he is, despite
because they had the
all of
Rolls
his
Royce.
massive talent. The Rolls Royce, and also just like it being a frustrating battle for Spider-Man in the first place.
Yeah. So you're seeing Roy Thomas as being frustrated at like Stan Lee for not giving him the credit he deserves and not putting him on a book that is more popular.
I think maybe not even that. I think he's just like I said, he sees himself as a real writer, and I think he thinks he should be writing novels and is stuck here. And while he's stuck here, he's also stuck on the project that he doesn't want to be on at Marvel.
I could see that. I really like the progress made with Scott and Jean. I like that we're getting a broader arc, at least starting here. I liked Werner Roth more than I like Don Heck. I know you're very excited about Don Heck. And
Don Heck's just doing the inks.
Wait.
Ross Andru is doing the actual drawings in this last one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Don Heck becomes the X-Men artist for the next, 10, 12 issues.
Okay.
And I just yeah, okay, you're right. We aren't seeing him as fully yet because it is Ross Andru. But yeah, I liked Werner Roth better.
Is he done? Like we saw his last issue for the time being?
Well, pretty soon X-Men splits into 2 stories per issue.
Ooh.
There's like the main story, and then there's a backup story about the X-Men's origins. And I believe Werner Roth draws at least some of those, if not all of them.
Okay, good. He is really he just understood it.
Yes.
You want to ask me about Pat Steals and Deals?
Yeah, do we have a Pat Steals and Deals today?
We do, Matt, but before we get there, I want to mention
I hate this.
A couple of cool things that I discovered in the ads of these comics from the time. Okay. Number one, a new Merry Marvel Marching Society membership kit. Just feast your baby blues on what all new members are going to get: an all new membership pin, an official recording of the Merry Marvel Marching Society song, swinging stickers of 8 Marvel heroes, a nutty new notepad, an assortment of magnificent mini books, a mind-snapping Marvel pencil, a majestic Merry Marvel Marching Society certificate, and your own munificent membership card. Now, this is the part that will really knock you for a loop. You get all these groovy goodies for the paltry sum of 69 cents.
Hell yeah, brother.
That's right.
Yes.
That's a really good price.
Did they have 69ing back then?
Yes. I don't know if they were calling it that, though.
While you tell us your next deal and deal, I'm going to look up the etymology of 69.
69 and 67. That's number one. That was just very cool. They're still refreshing the Merry Marvel Marching Society. There's a few discounts we've seen on some of their cool products. The other, in this era, the 5 to 6 months that we've covered, we also get the Not Brand Ek line of Marvel Comics, which is their Mad Magazine ripoff that takes aim at DC. I believe DC was either owned Mad Magazine by this point, or they were making some contributions to Mad Magazine. I forget exactly what, but this is branded as the comic magazine for non-believers who hate comics. It is the is the creation of Forbush Man, the wacky Alfred E. Newman ripoff Irving Forbush, getting his own costume and set of superpowers. Features heroes like Spidey Man, Nat Man and Rotten, Ironed Man versus Magnut the robot biter, Knock Furious and Agents of Sheesh.
That's pretty good. I gotta like Agents of Sheesh.
Yeah. It is very ripped from the pages of Mad Magazine because of their raging popularity, and I imagine they took a few shots at Marvel.
Pat, can I tell you about the origins of 69?
Yes. This is all part of Pat's Steals and Deals.
Yes.
This is covered in that segment.
It was first coined in 1888.
Those fucking perverts.
As a translation of the French "Forçaisen neuf." I can't pronounce French. I know you have to like kind of like slur it all together. So it's like faire soixante neuf.
You sound like you're speaking Gaelic.
So it's like "Forçaisen neuf." I can't find anyway, to do 69. So called from the resemblance of persons fitted together in the arrangement of the two numerals is what Etymology says.
Then the Marvel copywriters knew what they were doing here.
You could keep going with Pat's Steals and Deals. We just needed to get to the really important stuff.
Yeah. No, thank you for that digression. Our actual steal and deal here, though, is going to be
we haven't even gotten to it. Okay.
No. This is just fun stuff that was happening. The product that we're highlighting today is the 48-inch, quote, talking, end quote, monster from outer space. Full of shivers of delight. Imagine the amazement and shock of your friends when they hear him, quote, talk, end quote. This is a lovable monster for you to command, to make him, quote, talk, end quote. Just use the special design instrument. He bounces on his big feet, wobbling, teetering, bending in every direction. Colorful one-piece quality latex. Order several sets now. Guaranteed to delight or your money back. $1 each.
Okay, so it's just going to be a big balloon that you like a big like inflatable thing with this printed on the front.
Yes,
like one big bubble.
Where the Wild Things Are-esque monster that I guess grows to 48 inches. But here's my thing, Matt, and I tried to research. I couldn't really find much information about this, but if it's just a 48-inch inflatable piece of latex, and they keep putting talk in quotes because they are clearly required to not say it actually talks. What do you think that noise is?
I mean, it's just letting the air out. It's like
it's a whoopee cushion. This is a 4-foot whoopee cushion made as a monster, as far as I can tell, for only $1.
All right, I've got to admit to you, I've kept looking up 69 as you were talking.
Do you have more information, or you just wanted to share that?
Yeah, in 1883, a story called Boudoir from London, he uses the phrase "ready to make the beast with two backs to play the game of 69."
Ooh, okay,
or to do the lollipop trick with her ripe lips.
So your first explanation of the origin of the term was it came from the French term for to do 69. So I'm glad we got a little deeper into.
Well, I love the phrase to play the game of 69.
Yes. What's better? Email us mutantmenacepod@gmail.com. What is better, referring to it as the game of 69 or using the French phrase
to make 69?
To make 69?
Yeah.
I think both are equally romantic. Little treat for listeners that make it all the way to the end of the episode. We talk for a while about 69ing. In the academic sense.
Pat, those are great steals and deals. How much is this giant whoopee cushion?
$1.
So $10.
Yes, generally. Although the US dollar is tanking even more than it is since the last time I said it on this podcast. So who knows? That could be $5 soon enough.
Yeah. Pat, thank you for talking about the X-Men with me. Thank you for doing a Steals and Deals. Thank
You're
you
welcome.
for being my friend.
You're welcome.
I want to thank the listeners for tuning in.
Are you quitting?
No, I want to thank them for being here and listening. Guys, if you get a chance, you can find us on Instagram, Mutant Menace Pod, right?
Yes, Mutant Menace Pod.
And you can email us at that same address.
But at Gmail.
At gmail.com. Leave us reviews everywhere. Everywhere you can find to leave us reviews. Anywhere you can find to share it. We really, really could use your help, especially, again, we're still getting off the ground. I hope we're still getting off the ground, or or we're just talking to ourselves forever.
Yeah, maybe we're driving.
Pat, do you have anything you want to talk about before we get out of here?
I'm making an effort, Matt, to post on Blue Sky a little more. Okay. Recently, it's mostly been about Reacher. But yeah, I could use some engagement just for my own endorphins.
Is it just Pat Reber? Yeah.
I think I'm Fat Reber on Blue Sky.
Okay.
I don't know. Find Pat Reber.
There's not many of you. Also, you can find us on YouTube where we do post clips of each episode. The clips usually are accompanied by video of us and, like images that we are talking about in said clips. Anyway, thank you to Krills Wilson for our intro. And Julia Selly for the voice of Trish Tilby. What do we say here at the end of every episode?
Well, Matt, as always, you better believe it, Clyde.
And remember, stop John, mister, and load that Zuka.